My name is Jessie. I will be defending Aphis glycines, also known as the soybean aphid.
My name is Collin, and I will be defending the Melananthus sakari, or otherwise known as the sugarcane aphid. The debate topic for this debate is which causes greater damage / losses in agriculture, Aphis glycines, soybean aphid, or Melananthus sakari, the sugarcane aphid.
The soybean aphid, Aphis glycines, is native to Asia and spans from China, Russia, Japan, Korea, and southern areas of Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Myanmar. It has also been found in parts of Australia, Canada, and in the United States. They are an invasive species known to affect soybean plants. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts used to feed on phloem sap. Phloem sap flows through the leaves and provides nutrients to nutrient-deficient parts of the plant. The substance is crucial for the stem and root health of plants. When soybean aphid populations are high, they can put a lot of stress on plants and even reduce yields of crops up to 40%. The damage soybean aphids have on plants can either stunt their growth or lead to loss of plant life. Soybean aphids are a unique species as they alternate between sexual and asexual reproduction. They can increase very rapidly under favorable conditions, mainly in summer months when soybean plants are cultivated. As they colonize plants, they produce a sugary substance known as honeydew. As a result, this can lead to a fungus that covers the leaves of plants and has been proven to inhibit the process of photosynthesis. This can highly affect the yield of crops, specifically soybeans. As far as trying to control this invasive species, it is good to have an effective management plan. An effective management plan includes consistent field scouting to track aphid populations. Since they can reproduce at such fast rates, it is important to scout every 2 to 3 days. There are numerous insecticides that are effective against soybean aphids, but they are costly. Some costing around $17 to $35 per acre for the insecticide alone. It takes a lot of time and money to get the soybean aphids under control.
The sugarcane aphid is very similar in nature to the soybean aphid. Biologically, aphids are incredibly similar in the nature of their actions. At first glance, the sugarcane aphid could be either pale yellow, tan, or gray, with black feet and antennae. However, this look alone doesn't set them apart from other aphids. We are able to identify the sugarcane aphid based off of the plant that it is feeding off of. The sugarcane aphid in particular targets sorghum plants. Sugarcane aphids typically prefer to feed off of sorghum plants, but have sometimes been found on corn, despite them not feeding very well on it. Firstly, in the process of taking over a plant, the sugarcane aphid places themselves on the bottom side of the plant. Although it seems like they just attach to the plant with the sole purpose to kill it, they actually do so in order to suck the plant juices in order to benefit themselves nutritionally. Once attached, they inject a toxin into the leaves that typically results in the death of the plant. However, in some cases, the plant survives but has lasting issues such as delayed maturity or even severely stunted growth. Typically, the sugarcane aphid likes to take over plants in colonies. They usually start quite small, but quickly expand to larger colonies due to their rapid rate of reproduction. They are able to produce 1 to 5 nymphs per day for 30 days, which can amount to quite a significant number over this time period. Once accumulated, the sugarcane aphid takes over the plant. This can be identified by the presence of honeydew, which is what they secrete after feeding off of the plant. We are able to tell that sugarcane aphids are present when the underside of a leaf is shiny. When the underside is shiny, this indicates the presence of honeydew. which also represents the presence of the aphids. According to Business Insider, sorghum is a top 10 crop worldwide, particularly number 8, making the impact of the sugarcane aphid extremely detrimental to not only the economy and the food supply of the United States, but also the entire world as well.
One of the things that makes the soybean aphid much worse than the sugarcane aphid is their rate of reproduction. While the sugarcane aphid only produces 1 to 5 nymphs per day for 30 days, the soybean aphid produces 3 to 8 nymphs for 30 days. Each season brings multiple generations of soybean aphids, which results in high turnover rates for reproduction. A nymph reaches the point of a reproducing adult after about 7 days. A single soybean aphid can produce up to 80 offspring in a matter of a week. Their population can double in 2 to 3 days under favorable conditions, generally in a warmer climate. Likewise, when comparing the life cycle of the two, they are both seasonal pests, making them similar in that respect.
While these rates regarding the comparison of the rate of reproduction are slightly different at first glance, the numbers are ultimately quite similar. An infestation of both aphids would result in a significant amount of insects. For example, in Corpus Christi, an infestation of 50 sugarcane aphids rapidly increased to 500 in just the span of 2 weeks. While the soybean aphid may have higher reproduction rates at first glance, their optimal conditions for reproduction are much more demanding than that of the sugarcane aphid. They go best in temperatures ranging from 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not particularly popular in many areas year-round. On the other hand, the sugarcane aphid thrives in much more dry, hot conditions, which are much more easy to come around, especially within the United States. Some of the regions that are affected most heavily by the sugarcane aphid are the Rio Grande Valley, the Gulf Coast of Texas, and in northern Mexico.
Although the rates of reproduction for the soybean aphid and the sugarcane aphid are similar among certain regions, soybean aphids span across greater regions worldwide, such as China, Russia, Japan, Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Myanmar, Canada, and the United States. Also, according to Business Insider, soybeans are the 6th most produced crop worldwide compared to sorghum, which ranks 8th worldwide. Soybean aphids have a bigger impact on foods that are consumed at higher rates. Soybeans are affordable and accessible all over. Many countries rely on soybeans for their diet. If farmers are not able to control this invasive pest, it could result in a huge loss of crops. This puts a strain on the economy and farmers' pockets, not to mention the strain on areas who rely on soybeans heavily.
Although it is true that soybeans are produced more widely than sorghum is, they are still both in very high demand. Apart from this, 60% of all soybeans come from China, making it easier to predict and learn what times of the year the soybean aphid thrives. From a preventative standpoint, this makes it much easier to prevent a major infestation. In comparison to that of the soybean aphid, the sugarcane aphid is prevalent in many more regions, yet still produces similar numbers of the crop. Because of their heavy presence in multiple regions, it makes it much more difficult to learn what times of the year they are going to come, especially due to the effects of global warming. Conditions are becoming much more optimal for the sugarcane aphid worldwide, posing a significant threat to sorghum yields everywhere.
Lastly, the soybean aphid is important to study because of how quickly they can reproduce and affect agriculture at such high rates. An invasive species such as the soybean aphid can be monitored and controlled. With that being said, soybean aphids are used in research to practice ways of management. Many agricultural institutions, including universities, have studied this species because of the huge negative impact they have on crops. Soybeans are a number one target for these aphids as they thrive in environments where they are grown. Soybean plants are an important crop worldwide, which makes studying them essential for continued reproduction.
To conclude, the sugarcane aphid is an important species to research due to its incredibly detrimental impact to millions of sorghum plants worldwide. As sorghum is such an important crop around the world, the sugarcane aphid serves as a major detriment as it lowers the economic potential as well as the crop yields for sorghum worldwide. This is a major issue that needs to be looked into further as it is losing us billions of dollars every year. Apart from their effect on the yields of sorghum and on the economy alone, it is important to research the sugarcane aphid as they are similar to all aphids, which are all very impactful around the world. And like I mentioned earlier, due to the effects of global warming, the growing conditions are becoming more and more optimal for the sugarcane aphid, making research for preventative methods incredibly important.